Can you tell us about Sleeping Beauty and your character, Lucy, in the film?
Okay, Lucy is a student who's kind of struggling with money, and she does a lot of menial jobs to get by. And she falls into this kind of strange area of sex work where she is drugged and put to sleep, and men come in and do as they will to her. It's kind of about, I mean, she's a really kind of very passive character who's almost kind of nihilistic in a way. She's just allowing herself to stay in these kind of destructive situations, and I think it's just it just shows her the sort of, when she finally gets to that wall where she needs to get out, you know, she's kind of losing grip of reality and losing grip of herself, and I suppose it's about her finding her way back.
There's lots of very sort of naked, emotional and physical scenes in the film, obviously. How important do you think it was to sort of form that sort of trust with the cast, and how did you go about that?
Yeah, it was very important to build trust, especially with Emily and some of those Sleeping Beauty chamber scenes. But the shooting style of the film, which is these longer takes with the camera as a sort of tender, steady witness, meant that we had to work in rehearsal to marry the camera with the performances, if you like. So we were quite prepared by the time that we got to set for some of those scenes.
I was actually, when I read the script, I was worried because I thought, oh God, I bet the studio is going to try and tone this down. But nobody did, which was great for me. I mean, I kind of enjoy this kind of, I mean, that kind of challenge in work. Nudity is not something that's ever really made me particularly uncomfortable, so yeah, it was fine for me. I mean, obviously I went in with some nerves and some reservations, but I just really like the idea of challenging myself with work, I suppose, because what's the point otherwise if you're not gonna push yourself and go beyond what you think are your limits.
I mean, a lot of the characters seem to have a sort of unseen backstory, especially the relationship, I think, between Lucy and Birdman. Was that something that you sort of spoke to the cast about, or did you leave it up to them to kind of fill in those gaps about what happened in the past between them?
I think we spoke about it a little bit, but we didn't do like a long inventory of the unseen past or anything like that. I'm sure we discussed it, but yeah. So.
In the sleeping chamber scenes, you've said in other interviews that you sort of meditated sort of through them, that you kind of weren't present there. Did you see a parallel with yourself and with Lucy in that way?
That's interesting. I mean, I suppose even without the meditation, I think that I do kind of, whenever a camera's rolling, you know, in a film, I do kind of lose myself. So it's almost kind of like that's what I do for a living a little bit. I sort of escape from my own body and become a different thing and a different person. I suppose that there's a parallel there to some degree. But yeah, I mean, those scenes really were quite easy for me, to be honest, because I didn't have to be there. I think they were harder for the guys because, you know, they had to be present and actually discussing and emoting this kind of, you know, somewhat disturbing subject matter. But for me, I was just kind of, you know, half asleep, so.